Every time we think we're out, the Oscars drag us back in. After seeing what went down at this year's Academy Awards, we decided to delay our Cohen Brothers series and pick up where the Oscars left off and conclude our Best Picture series with this year's Best Picture winner, Anora. We debate the comedic value of the picture, the motivation of our lead character, and the runtime of the film. We praise Mikey Madison's performance, we argue over the dialogue of the film, and wonder about Anora's place in Oscar history. This episode is kind of like Adrian Brody's speech, in that it doesn't end on time and it's mostly about gum. That's this week on Hell of a Picture. Oh, I have gum in my mouth. 2 seconds.
Oh, you got the gum. Spit the gum out. Are you swallowing? Oh, did you just swallow your gum? Oh, no.
Just swallow the gum. I'm not like Adrian Brody. I can swallow gum. Did you see that in the Oscars?
Is that part of his 9-minute speech?
he took out the gum walking to the stage and turned around and like tossed it to like somebody. Just threw his gum. It's like, man, just take it out and put it in your pocket or swallow it like a psychopath.
My God, man.
Like me. Welcome to Hell of a Picture, a movie podcast where we discuss an unforgettable film, and if it truly is a hell of a picture, and we also talk about gum. My name is Andrew.
Isn't that what the holidays are all about? Two buddies sitting around.
Absolutely.
Talking gum.
Talking gum. My name is Andrew Bartlett. I'm sitting across the internet, as I do each and every episode, from the Igor to my Toros. Yeah, Ivan. No, Igor to my Ivan. Yeah, let's use those guys.
Sure.
Mr. David Hollingsworth. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing okay. I don't think there was really going to be a good comparison you could make there. I don't think anything really fits us. Not that they always do, but yeah, I guess Igor and Ivan were about as good as you could get. Should have gone with Adrian Brody and whoever he chose to toss his gum to. That would have been a nice.
I think it was his co-star. Yeah, so weird.
God.
So Hell of a Picture podcast this week. We are switching it up. So last week we said we were done with our Oscar movies, and we had done our Best Picture run of a Best Picture from each decade, sort of leading up to the 2010s. We weren't going to do the 2020s, but then, boom, Anora almost swept every category for the Oscars. And, David and I talked and we were like, we should really talk about Anora because it won Best Picture this year. Neither one of us had seen it up until this point. And we were like, let's dive in. Let's cap off our Oscar run with the Oscars this year. And let's talk about Anora. So we just switched it up. We're doing Anora this week, and we are going to get into it and we some interesting takes on it. So then this will be our last Oscar picture episode, and then we will we'll stick to the plan and get into our little Coen Brothers run next week with Blood Simple. So Anora. And David, you hadn't seen Anora. I just mentioned that, but neither have I. You didn't go to the theaters? You didn't check it out?
No, no. I mean, I must say, I wish I could get to the cinemas more, because
yeah, me too.
It's a nice thing. It's a nice ritual experience going to the theaters.
Absolutely.
And I so rarely do. I don't know if this is one that I would necessarily, demands to be seen in theaters.
Sure.
But whatever you think of this movie, and I think some things, I do believe that it is worth talking about, because certainly it moved a lot of people very, very profoundly. This was dominant in awards season, not just at the Oscars, but a number of other, Critics' Choice and film festivals and things like that. And there are a wide range of opinions on it, I think. And so I think that in itself makes it worthy of discussion. So I'm glad that we made a quick detour to talk about this today.
Yeah, Anora, you were absolutely right. This kind of played a bunch of places, sort of every place, and just had this crazy run and sort of picked up momentum into the Oscar season. I actually, I haven't seen a ton of the Oscar movies. I was saying to you before we sort of started recording, I really wanted to see The Brutalist, because that's sort of, people were sort of saying that gave off There Will Be Blood vibes. Everybody was, obviously Adrian Brody won Best Actor for that, and everybody was sort of clamoring
did he?
at it.
Did he give a speech?
He did, and he took his gum out. Oh, and his speech was, for anybody that doesn't know, broke the record for longest speech ever at the Academy Awards. So there was that. But maybe he figured that this will be the last time he'll ever be up. Adrian Brody's interesting because he's he's never he's like very in rarefied air with 2 Oscar wins. Like it's very. There's a select group of actors that have 2 Oscars, and he's one of them. Like, De Niro doesn't have 2 Oscars. And it's like, DiCaprio doesn't have 2 Oscars, and, Adrian Brody does, which is very interesting. But, anyways, I wanted to see The Brutalist. I haven't seen it yet. I'm going to see it soon. But we did see Anora, and we're going to talk about it right now. I'm rambling. Sorry. I love the Oscars. I love Oscars.
It's fine. It's fun. It's nice to get excited about something, and the Oscars needs you. It needs people of your passion, to sort of, advocate on their behalf. Because I think there is a malaise and an apathy generally surrounding the Oscars in the culture. Due in no small part to 6-minute speeches by people who maybe aren't that interesting, public speakers. So although I haven't heard Brody
4-hour
speak,
shows.
I hope it's rambling and borderline psychotic, because that would make it fun.
Yeah.
I could tune in for that. But
it's
4-hour movie, award show experiences are a bit much. But I agree. I am still interested in the Oscars. There's still a romance about it. There's still something exciting about it. I think we do need to care about it, but the Academy also maybe needs to do something to make us care about it. We don't just owe it our allegiance for nothing.
Yeah, I don't think you're wrong there. There's this idea that it's like, we're going to celebrate the technical aspects and like all these like, smaller people in the industry. And then it's like, production design gets up and the music starts playing 20 seconds into the playing them off the stage. It's like, get going. But then they'll let Adrian Brody talk for 5.5 minutes about who cares. You know what I mean? It's just like, I think we might have mentioned it on this podcast before, but I think Joe Pesci said it best when he just won his best supporting actor, where he says, oh my God, what did he say? He just said,
it's truly my pleasure. Thank you.
Yeah, he said like my pleasure, or it's my it's my honor or whatever. And he left. It was like, man, amazing.
Beautiful.
So good. Anyways, let's get into Anora, this year's Best Picture winner. David, you have a little bit of a rundown for us to catch anybody up that hasn't seen this film.
I do. Anora, or Annie, as she likes to be called, is an exotic dancer and sex worker living in Brooklyn and just doing what she needs to do to get by. When an encounter with the entitled and party-crazed son of a Russian billionaire sparks a frenetic romance and sudden marriage, it would seem that Annie has hit the jackpot. But when Ivan's parents learn of his exploits, they quickly send a team of Armenian strongmen to dissolve the union and bring Ivan to heel. In typical spoiled brat fashion, Ivan runs ignobly away, leaving Annie with the goons and a ticking clock counting down the hours until his parents arrive from Russia. Anora was released in 2024. It was written, directed, produced, and edited by Sean Baker. It stars Mikey Madison as the titular Anora, Mark Edelstein as Ivan, the man with 2 Slavic first names, Yuri Borisov as Igor, and Karen Karagulian as Toros. Now, recently, as mentioned at the 2025 Academy Awards, Anora would receive 6 nominations and come away with 5 victories. 5 for 6 is a great night at the plate, and I wonder how that stacks up against historical batting averages at the Oscars. The film would take home Best Actress for Mikey Madison, as well as director, original screenplay, film editing, and picture, with Baker himself holding the statue for these latter four, making him the first person ever to win 4 Oscars for the same picture. Anora cost a paltry $6 million to make, but shockingly was not the cheapest of all Best Picture nominees this season. That honor goes to I'm Still Here, a reported $1.5 million film from Brazil, which, in addition to its Best Picture nomination, would win Best International Feature. Now, I bring this up because I think it makes for interesting financial juxtaposition with some of the other contenders for Best Picture. I'm looking at you, Wicked, and Dune 2. And how that sort of relates to the experience of both the indie film in the film industry and the characters in this movie, who are all just trying to get by in a billionaire's world. Baker himself has spoken out about the need for independent film, and as I thought about all of this, it made me wonder if this is really a movie that is obliquely about movies and the film industry. And that is your rundown, and something to consider as we go forward in our conversation.
Wow, that's a great take, man. And that's sort of what when I was doing a little bit of reading about the film, I was like, yeah, this sort of makes sense of this like idea of an indie film versus sort of these franchise films, I guess, or just big budget films, and sort of like this. It's like one or the other. There's really doesn't seem to be anywhere for this in between films anymore. These, it's either you got a $150 million budget or you got like under $10 million budget. That's what you're working with.
That's right. And it does seem like the independent film is sort of having to scrape and get by. And one of the things that Baker mentioned, it wasn't in his Oscar speech, I don't think, but he talked about how indie filmmakers, they're living off a paycheck for years sometimes. Like one film, yeah, that's got to last them to the next project, which could be a long ways away. And obviously the compensation they're getting is not what you would get with a studio picture and stuff like that. So that is very reminiscent of sort of what a lot of people in this movie do go through, because it's sort of like everyone is just trying to get by and basically placate a billionaire in this. They're all just sort of trying to, they're trying to clean up their messes. They're trying to please them in some way. Everybody is having a tough go of it except the billionaire. And I think,
yeah,
that's very true of our world and very true of the film industry too. So that was interesting. It was something that sort of dawned on me after a while after watching the movie. It didn't really, you could see that there was clearly, a theme emerging in the film about, income inequality and class division and things like that. But the parallel with the film industry didn't strike me until afterwards when I started reading and writing about it.
So from your rundown, it seems to me that you enjoyed the film, or at least you could recognize it for some positive qualities. How did you actually feel about Anora? Okay,
so I'm going to start by saying something nice. A few things, actually.
Okay.
One, Mikey Madison is a hell of an actor, and her award for this performance is unimpeachable. I know a lot of people thought Demi Moore would get it. I didn't see her performance, but Madison is great, undeniably great. 2, billionaires suck, and this movie says that, which I like. And lastly, this is a $6 million movie, as we mentioned, and it won Best Picture, and that's pretty cool. So with that out of the way, I will spend whatever time remains to us now excoriating this film. I'm really hoping you like this movie, because I want to talk to someone who can help me understand what it is I didn't see. Because people loved this. It didn't just win the Oscar, like we said. It was a darling at Cannes. It won an Independent Spirit. It won Critics' Choice in a whole bunch of cities. And I want to know why. Can you help me, please?
Okay. Well, first of all, I think it, with respect to the awards, I think it was a weak year for, say what you will about Oppenheimer. And we've talked about Oppenheimer on this podcast. Like that was sort of, this big thing that was like plowing through everything. It sort of knew this was the culmination for Nolan, same with everything everywhere all at once a couple years ago. There's sort of this like, award season. There tends to be this like momentum for certain films and sort of picks up. And I feel like this is what happened to Anora. I think back when this was played at Cannes, like I think it was like won the Palme d'Or, and it was like, oh, this is like a great indie film, which often happens at Cannes. And then it was sort of like, I want to say like almost like a placeholder for Best Picture. It was sort of like, okay, this is going to be in the runnings. This is a great film, but like, we'll wait to see what happens for the rest of the year and see what will sort of dethrone this and sort of take over and sort of like, and sort of nothing that really didn't happen. And just sort of this sort of kept going, kept gaining momentum. And yeah, I guess you had The Brutalist come, and you had a, even like maybe people thought that a Complete Unknown might have done that, but that sort of, people were sort
musical
of like,
biopic, sort of.
Yeah, like they sort of waiting for another film, and it just didn't have this, sort of just kept up the momentum. So like, I guess I understand why it sort of swept the Oscars as it did. For me, I thought initially upon the first watch, and I've only seen the film once, but the performances were great. Like you said, I thought Mikey Madison, and kind of seeing some interviews with her, like this was a real strong performance. Like you mentioned the Demi Moore in Substance, and I feel like she was kind of playing herself, like this like aged actress that's, versus Mikey Madison, which is like she is soft spoken and not anything like Annie in the film. I thought the kind of the gangster Russian guys, or like whatever, they were all hilarious and amazing. I thought the Ivan, the love interest, or the whatever, Vanya, I guess, he was, I mean, I was like, is this guy even, like, it didn't even feel like he was acting. It just felt like so authentic, so real, this performance. That's why I thought the writing was so good. But I did, as like, generally, I just thought it was sort of like, okay, this is long. This is almost 2.5 hours long. I thought the first 45 minutes was like, okay, like what's happening here? Like, I think I even texted you. I was like, what is this? Like, it feels like I'm just watching this, like a stripper for like give lap dances for like the first 45 minutes. It felt, I don't want to say exploitative, but it was just like, because that's the content of the film, I guess. But I was just sort of like, I don't really know anything about this person. Like, why am I caring about her? Like, and then when sort of like the moment happens where the parents find out, and then shit starts hitting the fan, then I'm like, oh, okay, now I'm like a little bit more invested in what's happening. But I thought as a whole, it was just sort of like felt kind of like weird, I guess is the right word. Like, for me, I didn't hate the movie, but I didn't think it was like a Best Picture, like an incredible film. I thought it was like 7.5 out of 10 sort of thing. Like, and yeah, it explained to me why sort of you, at least, like what stuck out to you as just being like, this movie just doesn't work for you at all.
Well, okay, so for addressing sort of some of what you said there, like,
yes,
yeah, the events of this movie, they feel like the pretext for something else to happen. They do not feel like the entirety of a narrative, an interesting narrative. I kept wondering when the thing was going to happen to make any of this matter. But instead, it just kept rolling on with inarticulate yelling of a bunch of people I didn't like. Like, this story, if you chopped it down, is like the first act of another better movie. You know what I mean? Like, and like, this is a talkie where I wish everyone would stop talking. Like, I've seen and liked a few movies where, quote, nothing happens, but those films are usually buoyed up by characters and dialogue. And as great as Madison is, I don't really like the character of Anora at all. Like, I don't appreciate her decisions or her actions or anything like that. Like, I don't really feel anything really towards her. I'm not like rooting for her in any kind of extreme way. And, like, yes, like, I agree with you that the dialogue is authentic, in that I hated listening to these people talk, as I hate listening to a lot of people talk. So yeah, marks for realism, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, I can't remember. I think they even said it on the Oscars telecast, where they said there's X amount of F words in this movie, like some ungodly amount of F words dropped. Yeah, she's again, I feel like there was this sense of like we sort of got this like little bit of a taste of her relationship with her sister. Like we know, like, she and what she's saying to, but like that could have been like interestingly explored, like
or
even
removed.
the stuff at the or removed. I don't know, but like it just would make us maybe care about her a bit more. Like you said, it felt like even the conversations with like the other strippers at the beginning were sort of kind of were the most interesting part of, but then there was like lots of sort of like her. And if you've ever spent any time in a strip club, like it was just sort of like, okay, this is what's happening. This is what happens in a strip club. Like that was pretty accurate. Like, it's just like watching her going up to people over and over. And then they're going to the private rooms and all. It's like, yeah, like you watch it and then you sort of watch it unfold and you don't ever really know her motivation. I think that's a lot of where the struggle potentially is, like understanding what her motivation is. At the start, you sort of know that it's money, but then you sort of think, okay, but does she actually care about Vanya? Like, cause she's like, it's like sort of like you have to go with that. You have to go with the like, when they're sort of in the hotel room in Vegas and he's sort of like, I want to marry you. Like, let's get married. I stay here. I don't know, whatever. And she's like, are you being serious? Like, you still don't know if she's actually like falling for him. Cause you're kind of like, this guy's a fucking dingus. Like, is she actually going to fall for him?
Like, he's fun maybe, though. I'll give him that. He's married.
He is fun. So like, again, you don't really get a sense of like her motivations. Cause that's like, we're not really exploring her as a character sort of outside of her as a sex worker, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, like for me, I don't need to know more about her to care about her. I just need her to be interesting or admirable in some kind of way. If she was funnier, if she was, I don't know, anything other than just like abrasive, because like most of this movie is her calling people motherfuckers or that or something else. Like it's just, right. I think it's an incompatibility of character and viewer for me. Like I hated Raging Bull because I couldn't stand listening to those people talk. This felt very similar to that in some ways because I'm just like, man, stop talking, all of you. Like, please. Like, yeah, I did something for this episode I usually don't do. Like I actually read other reviews about this because I like to go in blank typically when we talk about stuff, but I really wanted to try to understand. And like what I saw was really astounding to me. Like here's something from RogerEbert.com. So, quote, on the surface, Sean Baker's powerful, spirited, and rollicking Anora unfolds wildly with an often comedic tone through several impeccably orchestrated high-energy set pieces laced with wise-cracking troopers. Like, I must have watched a different movie because I missed all of this. Like, at no point in this movie did I genuinely laugh. I never experienced any emotion beyond irritation. I did not feel suspense, tension, or even really care what happened next. And I never felt unjustified in that apathy because at no point did anything unpredictable happen. Like, I didn't think she was ever in danger. I didn't think any outcome in this movie was in doubt. Like, I could see, like, okay, they're going to go look for Vanya. Eventually, they're going to find Vanya. Okay, his parents are going to show up at some point. This marriage is getting annulled. Like, I didn't think there was any chance that anything other than what happened was going to happen. Even that final scene in the car with her and Igor, I could see that brewing for a while. And when it happened, I just looked at the screen. I was like, really? Really? Like I did the Seth Meyers, you know what I mean? Like, honest to God, man, if I was on a cross-country flight and I could while away the time watching this movie or sitting David Puddy style staring into the void, I will take the void every time.
Take the void.
Give me the void.
I see. I don't know. I have to disagree with you on the comedic thought.
Please do.
I was like laughing out loud at moments. Like thought it was hysterically funny. I would say most notably, and I didn't think it was an Annie, who was kind of funny. But even like, I guess Vanya had some funny moments, but like it was the Toros guy, the sort of the Godfather and his kind of bumbling idiots with him. Like, I mean, when they're in the house chasing her, I mean, it felt like the movie made or I guess Sean Baker made a very distinct choice in that moment where it's like we've seen that movie before. The Russian mobsters or the Russian help or whatever come and they like, it's like, okay, this is going to go down a dark path of like, you know, like whether it's like, you know, tying her up and like a sexual assault or like all this like other like kind of like dark areas that this movie could go into. It's like watching an friggin' Three Stooges skit, trying like the guys trying to capture Vanya and Annie in the room, and she's freaking out and they're falling over each other, and she broke my nose, and he's like telling her off, but he's not like there's never this like, okay, now we're going to get into like the real aggression. It's like these guys are like bumbling idiots, these henchmen that are like can't do anything right. I mean, when they're driving and he starts the what's his name? I think, is it Igor? No, Igor is the guy that she's sort of with at the end. It's Garnick, I think, or something.
Yeah, Garnick. Yeah.
He you know, he just takes the random pills, and then next thing you know, he's like throwing up all over himself. And they have that scene of them cleaning out the thing, and he's like, "My wife, what are you?" He's like, "Freaking!" He's like, "My wife got to drive this car tomorrow," and it's like, I mean, I was dying laughing at these moments.
You see the smile on my face right now? This is you got more out of me than the actual movie did. Like, I didn't deign more than a polite like, huh, like during watching this movie. I was like, it was like going to a stand-up comedy show where your friend is on stage and you're just trying to be nice. Like, it's just like, like, no.
But I could have watched those guys. I could have watched a whole other movie with like, you know, them trying to figure out what the hell is happening. Like, again, I was sort of texting you throughout the first half an hour. I was like, what am I watching? And then when sort of that moment happens where he gets the call and he's kind of at the christening, Toros, and you're like, oh, I'm like, oh, okay, here, this is where the movie starts. But like, again, like you sort of mentioned it, like, yeah, the movie, or I mentioned it, but it was like 2.5 hours, and I looked at my watch and it was like 45 minutes in. I'm like, okay, like could have gotten to this a bit quicker, I think, especially with you know, that week of them together is just sort of like them at a party, and then them having sex, and then them going to Vegas, and then them having sex, and them getting married, and them having sex. And it's like,
more sex.
Okay. Yeah. Like I get it. She's a sex worker. But the interesting part for me was, yeah, when those three sort of guys came onto the scene, and then they're, you know, you don't want to say kidnapping her, but they're taking her along and
kind of kidnapping her. Yeah, like seriously, like I actually did enjoy your retelling of it more than actually watching it. That scene that you describe, that must have been 30 minutes long. Like when they're in the house there, and it's basically 30 minutes of them all yelling about the same thing for 30 minutes. Like, oh, you're getting a divorce. No, we're not getting a divorce. Get out of my house. Oh, your parents are coming. Like, it was like an argument you overhear at a party with the most insufferable people at the party. And in this reality, it seems like everybody wants to watch it and they're enjoying themselves. And I have to go home because I can't stand it. Like, it's just, it's freaking brutal. Like, I paused this movie on no fewer than 8 occasions to see how much time was left. And as you have mentioned, it is 2:20, coming up on 2.5. You know, you do the math. I paused it about once every 18 minutes. And every time I saw how much was left, I let out an audible groan and just went, ugh, are you kidding me? Like, each one of those intervals felt like an hour to me. And, you know, it was like, seriously, like, I'm being animated here in my condemnation, but like, this was like using chemicals in a poorly ventilated space. I had a mild headache throughout, and I just kept thinking, why don't I stop? Like, it's like, I think I should have gone to a museum after this, or an art gallery or something, to try to revitalize my brain, which just felt totally enervated after this entire experience. I really can't express to you how much I didn't enjoy watching this movie. And it's
Wow.
appropriate that she refers to herself as Annie, because it's reminiscent of Anakin Skywalker in the Star Wars prequel trilogy. And yeah, there's a great through line there in how much they sucked. They both sucked. Like, more than any movie since The Fablemans, I walked away from this thinking, I want my 2 hours back.
Oh my God, man. Now that
When I
that is
bring
a
up The
funny thing you
Fablemans, you
mentioned.
know it's real. Like,
The film was shot over 37 days, and that it was a 25-minute. That home invasion scene was 25 minutes, and it actually took 10 days to shoot of the 37 days, like, which is pretty wild. But again, like
I
you
believe
sort
it.
of,
There's a lot of stuff breaking in there. There's a lot of physical,
yeah,
like, sort of, acting and rolling about.
yeah. But like the interesting thing too is like, when you're thinking about, just bring it back to the Oscars for a quick second. It's like, yeah, this Sean Baker, who is sort of like, now I will admit I haven't seen any of his other films. He was a small indie filmmaker. He's made kind of like indie world loves him sort of thing. He's clearly a very skilled director and filmmaker and writer, I think. He edited this. Like, I don't know why this is considered such a strong editing film. I mean, I guess there's like various jump cuts and jump scenes of like the montage stuff, but I didn't look at this and be like, this is like just brilliantly edited.
No.
But again, it's sort of like this like momentum of a film, right? And um, yeah, like I don't think anybody's gonna look back on this film and be like, this is like, like one of the all-time great Oscar best pictures. But it's so weird to think about that this director won 4 Oscars in one night. It's like Scorsese didn't win a best director or even a best any sort of Oscar for 40 years into his career or 30 years into it. It's just like, it's so random sometimes when like year this movie comes out, or like sort of like where the culture is, right? Because if this came out 10 years ago, there's no way we're talking about it in this light.
I think Tarantino presented him with one of his awards, at this year's Oscars. And isn't that like an interesting sort of, you've got a guy, Tarantino, who's won how many Oscars? Not enough. Not nearly enough. And, here's this
Oh,
guy walking
interesting.
out with 4 in one night for the same movie. It seems criminal almost. No, like, I don't think this is a poorly directed film. I think it's a well directed film, actually. And like you talk about, like, I don't like that scene in the mansion, where they're all sort of,
Right.
it's sort of this almost slapstick style, comedy. If I use the term loosely there.
Right.
I think it's well directed. I think it's well acted. Again, the writing of dialogue, I guess, is authentic, but I cannot stand it. The writing of the events, again, like, this just feels mundane to me. Like, I know it's not something that happens every day. You don't just marry a billionaire and have this, sort of whirlwind romance and all that stuff. But like, in terms of movie events, it feels very plain, and there's just not enough else in here to buoy it up. Like, and I guess it's on me. Like, I didn't appreciate the comedy. Apparently, a lot of people did. A lot of people found this funny. I didn't find it. Thematically, I do appreciate what I think is being said here. We
Right.
talked about it and how you can sort of equate it to the film industry, the economic inequality, billionaires or big budget pictures versus the rest of us, or indie films, the working class kind of scrambling to appease plutocratic overlords. But just honestly, man, like, my mind was battered from all the yelling. I couldn't really appreciate what the movie may have been saying on the subject, and just the repetitiveness of it. They look for Vanya for another 20 or 30 minutes. They're just going from club to club, restaurant to restaurant. Have you seen this kid? Have you seen this kid? And there's nothing in there of substance, really, other than, I guess, maybe this burgeoning relationship between Igor and Anora, which is just not compelling or believable at all. And yeah, I mean, it seems, I don't know. I'm clearly in the minority here, and this movie has vexed me greatly. So I will concede that maybe maybe it's me. Maybe it's me. Maybe this is great, and I just don't get it.
You know what? It's it's interesting. I think through this process of making this podcast together, I think, you are at least coming in, I don't want to say coming to terms, but like you're finding out some things about what you, I don't want to say like or not like about a film, but well, yeah, I guess what the hell is a hell of a picture, but like, you mentioned Raging Bull earlier, and it's like, I think a lot of things for you is writing, and it's the writing. It's not necessarily like, oh, the writing isn't well crafted or isn't authentic or doesn't flow, but you're just like, I don't like the way these people are talking to each other. I can't stand how these, like, it's just like you don't like the characters, not because they're poorly made characters or poorly crafted characters. It's because you don't want to spend 2 hours with these people that you would never spend 2 hours with in your everyday life. And that's not
I think
because
you're
they're
onto
criminals I don't think it's because they're criminals or bad people. It's because they're like fucking annoying to you.
It's a stylistic incompatibility is what it is. Like, I think, and yeah, like, again, like, I'm really harsh on this movie, but I think it's worthwhile. I would not dissuade anyone from seeing it. And I'm not
sure,
No,
I
know I was kind of animated there, talking about, I want my 2 hours back. I don't regret watching it because I enjoy our conversations,
of
but
course,
man, I would never watch it again. And it was a tough 2 hours for 2.5 hours for me.
It's another thing. It sort of made me think about, for you, there's this idea of, these characters, and specifically like how characters talk and interact, and just like the type of person they are sort of gets to you in a film, and sort of sometimes you can't get past that. I know for me, sometimes it's like when I'm watching a film and I'm watching characters making mistakes, making like just bad choices, really hits, like, gets to me, like, not like, and knowing this is a bad choice. I constantly go back to the film Before the Devil Knows You're Dead. Do you know that film?
I did not. Good title.
Sure Sidney Lumet directed it, wrote it. I think he directed it as well. It has Philip Seymour Hoffman in it, Ethan Hawke.
Cy Hoffman.
It's incredible, but it's about two brothers that essentially stage a jewelry store robbery that their parents own a jewelry store, and they like kind of stage it, or they like rob it so that they can get the insurance money. The parents get the insurance money, but they can, and it's just like bad mistake after bad mistake. And you're just like you just want to like go and shake these people and be like, what are you doing? Like, stop, like, don't make this, like, you know what I mean? And you're just that gets to me. And I love that movie, but it's just like, it's like, no, like, what are you doing? Like, you keep seeing these people make these terrible choices. I don't think we necessarily see this in Anora, but I'm just like kind of thinking about from
you bring up something really, really germane there. I kind of do. Like, there's a few points where like when Anora introduces herself to Ivan's mom, I'm just like, what are you doing? This woman already hates you. You like that's something that's sort of perplexing throughout. Like, she had this delusion that like this was going to be okay. Like, no, like, of course it's not. Like, it seemed so unbelievable to me that she would believe that. Like, her naivete was just too much in that. And yeah, like you say, like you want to just shake these people. And I was just thinking, like, with a lot of her decisions, I was just like, I don't understand this, or it doesn't work for me. As like, it's fine to not understand the actions of people if they can work in another way, and it didn't work for me in any way.
And I think that also gets back to motivation. I texted another friend of mine after I saw this that had sort of similar feelings to you about the film. And I was like, I just finished Anora, and I was sort of texting about it with him.
Can I do a podcast with him?
Yeah, might be more on the same page. It's but it was like for him, a lot of it was like in that moment, like you mentioned with the mother, and the mother was, had come and yeah, she's like introducing her, like, well, I'm Annie, like I'm so happy to be part of your family and all this, and it's just like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
But aside from that, it's just like he was mentioning to me, like the motivation for the Annie character, like she holds all the power in that, like of getting on the plane, um, and we don't really know what her motivation is. Like we think that it's first, like I mentioned this at the beginning, we think it's money, right? Because it's like, well, she's like essentially just working. She's a sex worker, and like this is how she makes her living, and all that's all fine and good. But then it turns into like, oh, now she's gonna marry him. But like again, like does she marry him because she's actually falling for him? Like I don't think she's actually falling for him. But then you're left with being like, well, if she's not falling for him, then she is in it for the money, and she holds all the cards. And then at the end, the mother's sort of like, get on the plane. We're going to go sign this annulment, or I'm going to take you down. Like, but it's like, but how? Like, Anora holds all the cards at that point, right? Like she doesn't like, if she's just like, no, I'm not going to get on the plane. Like she says it, I'm going to sue you. I'll get a lawyer and I'm going to take them for half. And she's like, no, I will like destroy you. But we don't know enough about Annie outside of her as a sex worker. We don't know what her motivations are. Like, we don't know if like her sister, she has things with her sister or her parents, or like she's actually doing this for like, you know what I mean? Like, so you don't really know her motivation. You're just like, okay, so she's just saying now she wants the money, but then she's just like, mother's like, well, but you're going to listen to me. And she's like, well, okay. And she just gets on the plane, and it's like, wait, she's, I think if you look at look at that from the other side, you could sort of say that the moment right before that, Vanya is like, thank you for making my last week in America amazing. But like, essentially this was never anything. And she sort of realizes that. And that's sort of her like, fuck. And then she's like, well, what can I do? Well, I can take half of his money. And then it's like, the mom's like, no, you're not going to do that. Like, what are you going to do? Like,
I think
I
that,
didn't hate that
moment, sort of,
but
yeah. I mean, I think that runway, that tarmac scene is kind of important to the movie because like, yeah, like at the end, Vanya's just like, yeah, this was just a dalliance for me. I'm a rich guy, like, using people in this way is what I do. It's over. And then the mom too, sort of saying like, yeah, you can get a lawyer, and with the resources I have and the influence and clout and power, I can destroy you. And she even gives that little wink to Igor, like, and this is kind of, this is sort of the way I guess a lot of our lives are. I was like, yeah, we could try to do something about rich people who run the world and yada yada, but like they would just destroy us through legal means because they have the power to achieve, to do that. So
right.
I think there's significance to the thing, but I agree with you and your anonymous friend that it is kind of unclear as to what her her raison d'etre is. Like I don't think she loves him, but I do think she's kind of willing to give it a shot, like romantically, in the interest of money. But like it's always it's a little ambiguous. And in the end, like she does it for 10 grand, and you're right. All she had to do was withhold her presence. She just had to not be in Las Vegas, and this marriage would continue to exist. If she's not there to sign it, it's not annulled. She could just stay, and if they take her, then it's kidnapping, and then you've got like a real, legal case. And so, yeah, a lot of that felt flimsy to me, and I agree. There just didn't seem to be sound motivation or sort of a foundation for her decisions at any point.
So we've, I think we've talked a lot about this film. We could talk about it some more.
I could rag on it another hour.
So I feel like this question is a bit redundant, but I ask it at the end of every podcast anyway, and I gotta know for you, is this a hell of a picture?
I know I was super harsh on this movie, but I want to be clear. I'm not saying, I'm not one of these people who say like, if you like this movie, you're dumb. Like, no one has that authority, like I really don't like this movie. But if people do, obviously they do. That's that's cool. I think because it won Best Picture, my feelings are elevated, and that led to a more animated and vituperative commentary on it. And truth be told, I had fun writing about it and talking about it. Mikey Madison is wonderful. I loved her in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I loved her in Scream 5 or 6 or whichever one she was in with Dennis Quaid's son. And I look forward to seeing her in whatever she does next. That was a good Scream, by the way, whichever one that was. Well, let's do that sometime. Look forward to seeing her in her next project for sure. But this is not anything close to a hell of a picture for me. And I would say it's at best an underwhelming and perplexing Best Picture winner. Like I would take Dune 2 was the only other one I saw. I would take Dune 2 over this in a heartbeat. I know that Dune 2 is kind of like it's a giant space opera with tons of special effects. It's very generic at this point, but I think it was beautiful and unique in its in its genre. This is a worthy movie to talk about, but I do not like it. So no on the hell of a picture, and I have to believe there's a better Best Picture winner too.
Yeah, you know what? While I don't echo your sentiments on what on this film. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the 2 hours. I don't want the 2 hours back. I thought she was great. I thought the Russian guys were great. The casting was awesome. But yeah, as a Best Picture, I was sort of like, oh, this seems, I look at something. I read another thing about, somebody said Anora is Pretty Woman meets Uncut Gems. And I don't know if you've seen Uncut Gems or Pretty Woman for that matter. But
haven't seen Pretty Woman.
Oh, that's a good one. We'll do
that. I was thinking when I was watching this, I was like, is this Pretty Woman? But how do I know? I've never seen Pretty Woman. I just know enough about it.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. But Uncut Gems, like I look at it and I'm like, okay, I could sort of see similarities between Safdies and what Sean Baker is doing here. But like, I thought Uncut Gems was a masterpiece compared to this and was like way, 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 way better. And I love Uncut Gems anyway, but yeah, like as a Best Picture, this feels just kind of weird and kind of misplaced. But again, I think it's just sort of all in the year. So for me, like again, like you said, I think because it was all these things, all this Best Picture and Best Writing and Best Actor or Actress, and all these things. Like it's not a Best Picture. It's not a hell of a picture for me because of those things, because it sort of like levitates it to this sort of like level. And it's just sort of the same thing we go through when we kind of mention Crash and we mention Shakespeare in Love and we mention these kind of Best Picture winners that you're just sort of like if you go back and watch Crash, I haven't watched it in a ton of years. I feel like it's probably not as bad as everybody remembers it to be. It's like, maybe it is, but it's also probably, people probably think of it because it's just stuck in your head. It's like, that was a year Brokeback Mountain should have won Best Picture and it didn't. And Crash won. But I feel like if you go back and watch it, it feels like it probably has like some very poor thoughts on racism and just like,
definitely,
and like white people save the day and that sort of stuff. But I as a film, it's probably not as bad. So it's like when these Best Pictures sort of win, they sort of get elevated to this next level, and you're sort of like, sometimes you can't help but think of them in the Best Picture discussion, and you're like, this is,
well,
I don't think this
you
is
have to. I mean, when you achieve that level of success, you are always opened up to greater criticism, commentary, and analysis.
Exactly.
And when that happens, people are going to find cracks in the armor. And so if you want that award, be prepared for this. You know what I mean? Like, so it's as simple as that. And I think most people will take the award and happily, or just try to ignore the criticism anyway. Because at the end of the day, championships are forever. You can hate all you want, but that statue, that banner in the rafters, those are there, and you can't take that away from anybody, right? So it's like Ovechkin and the goal record. People are trying every way possible to mitigate his achievement, And just like, man, there's this guy at work the other day talking to me, and he's like, man, well, if Gretzky had shot more, he'd score more goals. And Ovechkin only scores his goal from one place. I'm like, what? Like, just stop it. Just appreciate what's being done here. Like, at least acknowledge that it's good. You know what I mean? Like, so good for Anora, good for you, good for independent film. There's
bad for David Hollingsworth watching.
bad for me, and billionaires.
Right.
Me and billionaires. We're the real losers in this.
Always.
But yeah, that's it. Bye.
Okay. So as we mentioned earlier in the beginning of the podcast, we're done with our best pictures. Oscar season is over. We're getting into summer's coming up in a couple months, and the summer blockbusters, I'm sure, will be around. But we did our run here, and I'm going to sort of spring this on you, David. We did 9 best pictures. We did Casablanca on the Waterfront, Lawrence of Arabia, Deer Hunter, Amadeus, Titanic, No Country, Birdman, and Anora.
Right.
So we did one from every decade, excluding sort of like the early, the 30s or whatever. Can you rank them for me? Can you rank of these 9 that we did? Can you sort of give me a little bit of or even just sort of a top 3, whatever you want to do? I'm just interested to see how you sort of rank these.
Yeah, no, I'll give you the full run here. So, coming in at number 1 for me is undoubtedly Lawrence of Arabia. That's a no doubter. Top of the heap. Yeah.
Oh, so you went top. You started at 1 going down.
I go top to bottom. I lead with strength. So we're coming in number 1, Lawrence of Arabia, no doubter. Number 2 and number 3, you can put No Country for Old Men and Casablanca in either of those slots, and I'm okay with it.
Wow.
I like them both a lot. I would be splitting hairs. So 2, 3, No Country, Casablanca in any particular order. Number 4, I'm going to surprise myself a little bit, and I'm going to say Titanic coming in at number 4 for its rewatchability and the achievement in filmmaking, the larger totality of making a film. Number 5, I'll go Birdman. I will bring Birdman in at 5. I did quite enjoy Birdman. Number 6, I will say Amadeus. I liked that as an atypical period piece. And The Laugh. You gotta love Tom Hulce's laugh. Numbers. Thank you. I needed that. Number 7. Here's where it gets tricky. I think I'll go Deer Hunter. And then 8, I will say On the Waterfront. And bringing up the rear in a distant 9th is Anora.
So it feels like it's 8 for you, and then there's like this long list, and then it's Anora at the bottom.
No, I mean, honestly, for me, like I didn't love the Deer Hunter. I don't need to watch that ever again. On the Waterfront,
but Deer Hunter's still, on the Waterfront, above On the Waterfront for you.
Yeah, just because I really love the opening act of the Deer Hunter. I think that's really well done, and so for me, that opening hour of the Deer Hunter is enough to put it above On the Waterfront. Right. Even though I do dig, I dig a lot about On the Waterfront. I didn't find it a super riveting watch. It was good, and I appreciate it historically in terms of its significance to actors. But
love it.
Yeah,
love it. So this is we have very different lists, which is so interesting.
Oh, that's great.
That's so great. So I'm gonna go lowest to highest.
Okay.
So for me, it starts off Anora. As in the number 9 spot, Anora.
Okay.
100%.
This is good. We're going to confuse people.
You want me to go the other way? I'll go the other way.
For continuity, for consistency.
Yeah, for continuity. I like building dramatic effect. Okay, so number 1 for me.
You do you.
Let's go. Yeah, number 1 for me would be No Country for Old Men.
Okay.
That's still sort of one of my favorites. Number 2, I'm going to go, this is close. Number 2 and number 3 would be, I think number 2 is going to be The Deer Hunter, followed by Casablanca at number 3. Then I'm going to go, Then I'm gonna go. Oh man, again, this is a tight one, but I gotta go. I think I gotta go Titanic, number 4. Followed very closely by On the Waterfront.
Mm-hmm.
Then I will do Lawrence of Arabia for the sheer volume, the magnitude. Then I'm gonna go Birdman. Nah, Amadeus. Birdman, Amadeus, Anora. That's my list.
Okay.
So the big difference between me, well, like you had No Country second, I had it first.
Yeah.
Then I had the
Casablanca and No Country, we've sort of gotten the same. Like, you had Casablanca coming in at 3. I had it 2 or 3. Yeah. We both have Titanic at 4. That's good, right? That sort of meaty part of the scale. That's good.
See, it's interesting this sort of this run that we did. I'd be interested to do it again maybe next year, and we do like sort of a different best picture and sort of see where it ranks up, and then maybe look at the big list, and we sort of compile this kind of master list as we go of best picture winners. It's interesting because at first glance I would have been like, no chance Titanic's going to be like 7 or 8. I'm going to enjoy it, but I never thought it would be as high as 4 in this sort of list. And it's like, it's just still, it's such a great rewatch and such a great film, man.
It is. And like, just in the same way that, it deserves, and it's often precluded from consideration, movies like that for Best Picture, but it was just undeniable in that case because of just how big it was. And like we talked about in the episode, the broader achievement in filmmaking that occurred in that production. You just you cannot in good conscience ignore it. It's not possible.
No, you're absolutely right. So there you have it, guys. There's our little rankings for the best pictures that we talked about in this run of best pictures. And now back to our regular programming of the Coen brothers happening next week. Blood Simple. We're starting with the Coen brothers' first film, this kind of neo-noir thriller. It's great. It's been a year since I've watched it. And Dave, you've never seen it, correct?
Never seen it. Looking forward to a film that contains suspense or drama or intrigue or anything remotely interesting. That'll be great. It'll be that'll be a nice departure from.
Not every second word being the F word. Not that you hate that, but.
Oh, they hate. Look, I'm fine with profanity. I'm fine with eroticism. The content of the film did not upset me in any way. Just the execution. And
there you go. All right. So for David Hollinshurst, my name is Andrew Bartlett, and this has been another episode of Hell of a Picture.